How did I come up with a 12-month world travel itinerary? Stay tuned to find out. Hi everyone, Tasha Danielle here. Welcome back to my channel where I share how I'm traveling the world solo after quitting my job in June 2022. The idea of world travel came to me in 2016 when I went to South Africa solo to meet up with the travel group Travel Noir. When I was there, I met a young woman who was traveling Africa solo, and then I thought, oh my God, like people really do this in real life. People that look like me do this in real life. And I knew I wanted to do something similar, except I wanted to travel the world. Even though I couldn't tell you exactly where I wanted to go in 2016, I knew that there was parts of the world that I wanted to see. So when I really got serious about doing this and making a list of places I wanted to go, I knew that I wanted to start in South Africa. I went to Johannesburg in 2016 and I didn't get a chance to go to Cape Town or Durban. So I wanted to start in South Africa, specifically Cape Town, go to Durban, and then I wanted to go to West Africa or East Africa, either or. I didn't care which route I took, but I wanted to go to West Africa because my college roommate is Ghanaian, and I learned a lot about Ghana and West African culture through her, and it always intrigued me. I also caught an episode of Anthony Bourdain's show where he went to Senegal, and I remember him saying that the Senegalese food was some of the best he's ever had in his life. And I love food. And so when you have a food traveler or expert, he traveled, before his untimely passing, he traveled the world to learn cultures in various foods to eat, try different foods. I'm getting tongue tied, sorry. So when he said it, I'm like, okay, that has to hold some weight. So in the East Africa, Egypt, pyramids, like I just always wanted to check that out. So where did the idea for me to visit the other countries that you see on my list come from? And also you can see I didn't start in Africa like I originally planned. I actually started in Europe, and you could have never told me that I would have started a world travel experience in Europe, because I just never really had a desire to go to Europe. And that wasn't until I started listening to podcasts of women sharing their experience throughout Europe. Now, obviously, if I said I wanted to travel the world, I would be going to Europe, but I didn't really have a place in mind. And yes, ladies, that means I did not have this deep down desire to go to Paris. I know most women always have a desire. I didn't. And it's so ironic that I started this whole thing in Paris. See, how things actually played out versus how I thought it would have went a few years ago is truly ironic. I actually began my journey in Europe. And that was because a friend of mine was organizing a trip to Spain in July, and I figured, why don't I just start in Europe so I can see some familiar faces a month in of me traveling solo. Little did I know that my cousins and my best friend would end up starting my journey with me in Paris. So I was like, this is awesome. I can start with my closest people to me, and then a month later see more familiar faces. So this is why I decided to start in Europe. That trip didn't even happen. So me starting in Europe is a little bittersweet. I'm glad I went, but I decided to go and visit Europe. I'm currently in Europe now during the peak season. But it worked out because I was able to spend my birthday with my cousins and best friends, and I don't think they would have went to any other country on this list first, because Paris was always top of mind for them. Now, you see Croatia, Turkey on this list, Portugal, Spain. So where did I have the desire to visit? Where did the desire, I should say, come from for me to see these places? Podcasts. Now, I wanted to travel the world. The seed got planted in 2011. 2016, I went to South Africa and met a solo traveler who was traveling Africa, and that's when I knew I could do it. So since 2016, I've had this idea really in my mind on what the places I want to visit. So what do you do when you want to stay motivated and you're the only person with this crazy idea? You find your tribe, and whether that tribe is online or in person, you have to find other like-minded people that are trying to do what you want to do or already doing it. And I found that through podcasts. Stephanie Perry is a popular YouTuber that I found a few years ago, and I listened to her YouTube. I would say podcast, but it's her YouTube channel. She interviewed Black women who were traveling solo around the world, whether they were taking a sabbatical for a year, just taking a few months off, whether they were moving abroad. But I got to hear all these unique stories, and this one person in particular talked about her time in Croatia. And she was so descriptive about her experience, from the food to the architecture of the buildings to her hopping on ferries to go to different islands around Croatia. I just knew that I had to go to Croatia. And bonus, it's very low cost. So, and she just was explaining how she felt safe as a solo traveler. She didn't feel like she was getting stared, or she just didn't feel uncomfortable being a Black woman in this new space. And that was very important for me. So it was stories like this that made me add different countries to my list. So Croatia and Turkey were added because of this one woman's story. And so the countries that you see listed is truly because I heard people's wonderful experiences on podcasts. So that's how the countries in Europe popped up. And anytime someone mentioned anything about good food and low cost, I was all ears. Now on to Asia. When I was in the 4th grade, I had an obsession with Japan. I don't know why. I just thought it was a cool place because I remember reading a magazine in some book where the characters were talking about how futuristic it was in Japan. And I don't know, maybe I thought it was going to be like the Jetsons, George Jetson, I think that's George, where they were like sky traveling. I don't know, I was in 4th grade, but I really wanted to go to Japan because I just kept seeing the word futuristic, and it was a fictional story. Some of the stuff I was reading and then looking at pictures in magazines, I just always wanted to go. And the language, like, it's hard to learn and even read. And I remember looking at what the language looked like as a child, and I'm like, I want to go there for some reason. So I knew that Japan was going to be on my list, but I ended up adding Singapore because of crazy rich Asians. I'm gonna be real. Like, I just remember seeing some of the cinematography in that movie, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go to Singapore. In Thailand, I had a few friends visit Thailand. They spoke very highly of it, and food was great, and again, low cost. So Japan can be, I think it's kind of moderate. Singapore is known to be a little expensive, and so Thailand was definitely added to my list to balance those two places out. Now, I also have on the list Bali. Now, Bali came to me from the movie Eat, Pray, Love. Even though I didn't really love the movie, I watched it over and over again because I just connected with the characters' journey of not wanting to live a routine, mundane life, and that there was more to life than what society expects you to do. So I remember her going to Bali, and I just remember how beautiful it looked. And then recently on social media, there are a lot of people who go to Bali for yoga retreats, spiritual retreats, and so I wanted to add that on my list. Stupid fly. Australia has always been a place I wanted to go because of the kangaroos and the coral reef. Even though I have a fear of snorkeling after a panic attack snorkeling in Jamaica, I want to get over my nerve of snorkeling so I can definitely see the coral reef when I go to Australia. But I could not say that I want to travel the world without having Australia on the list. And so as I began to really write out the countries that I wanted to go to, I realized that I really wanted to visit all the continents minus Antarctica because I don't like the cold and it's very expensive to go to Antarctica. But now that I have started my world travel, I really do think I want to go to Antarctica, but it won't be within this year's time. But I was like, I want to go to every continent. And so I realized I was doing that with the continents I just mentioned so far. And then I'm like, I want to go to South America. I've always wanted to see Brazil. Recently, a lot of people have posted about Brazil and how beautiful it is, beaches, and the food. Common theme, food with me. But I do love the sun. One thing that I'm chasing on this 12-month journey is sunshine. I do not want to be in any climates that is colder than 50 degrees. I have my jacket and sweater pack to be prepared for places when the temperature drops, but I really want to be in warm climates. So anytime beaches and good food is mentioned, I want to go. And so that is how I added the countries that you see in South America listed. Prior to me leaving to travel the world, I have been fortunate enough to go to Central America. I went to Costa Rica in May of 2022. I've been to Jamaica several times. I know that is like Caribbean area, but I've done a lot of different island hopping, if you will, and I want to do more of that when I'm actually in Europe, when I am in Croatia and Greece. So I want to hop around the Greek islands. My travel itinerary is loose in the terms of I do not book out any flights or accommodations more than a month in advance. Now, some people may say, well, you could save more money if you booked it out further in advance, but in the COVID monkeypox world that we're in, I do not want to do that. And also, I could decide to stay in a place longer. And it just makes me feel more at ease knowing that I don't have a countdown going on how long I can stay in the area. Well, no countdown besides the 90 days in the Schengen area within Europe. If you're not familiar with what that means, it means that as a US citizen, I can go to Europe and travel through Europe for 90 days without applying for a formal visa. I cannot stay in the Schengen area more than 90 days. If I do, there's a chance I could be banned from Europe for 5 years. So I have been strategic in how long I'm staying in the Schengen area, which is why I am in Bulgaria right now, because it's outside of the Schengen area and it's actually low cost and it is very beautiful here. So very underrated country. I'm actually enjoying myself, but more to come on that. Now back to what I was saying regarding not feeling like I have to be so confined to a timeline when I'm visiting countries. I have been able to add places to my itinerary, such as Granada, Spain, Sevilla, Spain, because I really wanted to learn more about the history and culture of the Moors and learning more about the Christian conquest. And I had no idea that I would want to learn these things until I was learning about the history in Portugal and Black history in Paris. So you see what I mean? Like having a loose itinerary, not having things pre-booked can be a very good thing. Now, how did I map my routes of these countries? August 2018, I received a world scratch-off map, I should say. And this is a map I looked at every day until I left. So almost 4 years of looking at a world map. I knew where countries were located because honestly, before receiving this map, I didn't. Like I knew where Paris and Greece was, but Croatia, I had not even heard of that country to hearing the podcast, right? So hearing these different places on podcasts and having that world map, I could easily go, yep, I can go there. Yep, that's close to here. And that is how I was able to map out this world tour, I should say, of places that I want to visit. Now, I love the map because you can scratch off the places that you visited. So I was fortunate enough to have been able to scratch off a lot of places that I visited throughout the US and Mexico and other places I had been when I received the map. So now when I go back to visit my family in the States, I'll be able to scratch off so many more countries. I didn't take the map with me, but I brought this up to say like mindset is so important. I mentioned podcasts already. Like I listen to all these stories of women traveling the world solo, and that kept me motivated to really know that I could go after this. and seeing that map every day. I didn't have a vision board of places I wanted to go. I saw the world map every freaking day for almost 4 years. Like, when I say I've always wanted to do this, I really did. Now, March 2021 is when I really had like my semi-final list of places that I plan to visit. 2021 was the year that I was like, okay, you really have to do this. Like, you cannot sit on this any longer. The idea for me to travel the world was planted in 2011, 2016. I really met someone who was doing this in real life. It wasn't a podcast. I met a young Black woman who was traveling Africa by herself. And that is what made me say that you should travel the world solo, not just Africa. So 2016 to 2022. And I'm sharing that with you because we all have goals that we want to achieve. And if you feel like you don't have anyone in your family or your friend groups that want to do something you desire to do, you have to find your tribe. And whether it's in person or online, I found my tribe online. Like I mentioned, Stephanie Perry's YouTube channel. I listen to that every day. Just Lively is another podcaster that I listen to who she travels the world, and she's from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and she started this podcast just like married, and then she went on this whole self-discovery process and started traveling the world. So just various podcasts kept me motivated, and different perspectives let me know that I could do this. This fly, sorry y'all, this fly is distracting me. But that is it for today's video. If you have any questions or comments, like if you are thinking about traveling solo, let me know your biggest fear. Why haven't you done it yet? If you know you've always wanted to go to Amsterdam, for example, why haven't you done it? If it's money, are you budgeting? If it is because you don't want to go by yourself, can you find a travel group to go with? Like, these are the things you need to start asking yourself when you've always wanted to do something and you haven't. And this is coming from someone who took years to finally achieve this life goal. So definitely make sure you like this video and share if you care, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.